Thank you to everyone coming. We're really excited to have everyone, and I'm going to get started just to kind of break the ice. Again, if family members are here, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat or turn your camera on. But just to kind of get the ball rolling, I'm going to ask a generalized question, and then we'll get started. I guess this can go to Tara, Christine, Sue, and Andrew. What are the steps my student needs to take as a student athlete? So if they're coming in as their first year, what are the necessary steps? Do they have to reach out to the student athlete department? What else? What is there?
Okay, I can start with that. So if they have not, if your son or daughter has not contacted a coach, they need to do that. All the coaches' email addresses are on our BSU Bears website. Anything that they want to know about being a student athlete is also on the BSU Bears website. There is a link for student athletes. If they have reached out to a coach will be giving them any information they need about what's going on with the team. As you all know, we don't have fall seasons, but we will have practices. So they have to be medically cleared. So they should be getting an email from Jean O'Brien, our Assistant Athletics Director for Sports Medicine. J5 O'Brien is her email address. And it should be with connections to compliance forms and medical forms. They need to be cleared academically from me. That's my job, part of my job. So they will have to fill out, again, those compliance forms so that I can clear them, and all medical forms. They need to have a physical within 6 months of the start of their season, which I suppose will be early September now, but they cannot practice until they're cleared medically. They can also reach out to me if they have any questions they're not hearing from a coach. My email address is stangen@bridgew.edu.
So just as a parent, I'd like to just step in and just kind of piggyback a little bit of what Sue had just mentioned about student athletes needing to be medically cleared. For my student, I did forget to mention earlier in my introduction, he's a rising sophomore this fall. And one of the things I just reminded him to do as he was doing all of this medical clearance is in his phone, he should just create new contacts, because there's user IDs, some are Bridgewater related, passwords, everything. This is something that he'll need to do each year. And if he just creates that in his contacts or in his notes on his phone, it just will be easier that following year to just kind of hop back in. As many of you know, we just have so many usernames and passwords for so many different things that we do. So that was just something small that I would just remind him to do.
From the student athlete perspective, when it comes to the clearance forms and stuff, I know that was something that my first year was a little difficult to track. And so the biggest thing is, like, if your student isn't getting them, you want to make sure that they reach out to the coach or to Jean or to Sue, because like Sue had said, like, you can't start doing anything until those are filled out. So the earlier and the quicker they're filled out, the faster your athlete can get to participating.
To piggyback off of that, I think it just goes back to time management. It's very, very important that your student athlete is able to manage their time well. Things can get ahead of them. Things can get lost in emails and in time constraints. I think the more we urge our students to check their emails, to make sure of deadlines, it'll make their lives a little easier. I know me as a parent, I stay on top of my son. Did you check your emails today? Make sure you check those emails. What's the deadline on this? What's, just making sure that he's aware that I'm aware, and then I make sure that he's aware again and again and again and again. But I think it's just mostly time management, especially once athletics start and then classes start, then it's very important for time management.
Just one little piece, just to add. Earlier, Sue Crosby had just mentioned the student athletes do need to be medically cleared. Some insurance companies, with regard to the physicals, the annual physicals for the student athletes, some insurance companies will only cover one within a calendar year. And if your physical is outside of that 6 months from the start date of your respective sport, you can reach out to the wellness center here on campus. Not the day of or the day before. You do have to reach out, and give them some time, but they will perform physicals. I believe it's no charge to the student, but so that you are able to have that one piece and be medically cleared. So if your insurance does not cover, reach out to our wellness center, because they do step up and they do help with that.
Thank you. I appreciate those answers. I'm going to actually direct these questions to Christine and Tara. So as a parent of an individual that is a student athlete on campus, what is the best piece of advice that you could give to new family members on how to support your students so they feel like they're successful on campus?
I can start off, Christine, if you'd like. For me, I kind of have two views here. I have one as the parent, and then I have one as the full-time staff member here within the athletics department. So firsthand, even just within our department, and I'm not just saying that because Sue Crosby is joining us. I truly mean this. She is such a wealth of information to our student athletes. Sometimes it's counseling them, just having difficult conversations with them about, they kind of need to step up to the plate a little bit. They have to, hold themselves responsible for some things that they might have missed out on. There are other times where she really is just patting them on the back and letting them know, it is difficult. This is your first year, living away from home and kind of trying to balance, maybe a job and athletics, and then of course academics. So she wears so many hats here in the department, and she just is so invaluable to our student athletes for sure. Aside from that, our Academic Achievement Center has been a huge help for a student that might just be struggling. I'm trying to think of some other departments. There are so many departments across campus that I have found that have just been such just a wealth of knowledge. I'll come back to this, but I don't know if Christine wants to step in.
I told my son to always ask questions. If you don't have questions, the answer is always going to be no. If you don't know, there's someone who will know, or if they don't know, they'll find the answer to the question for you. Also to step out of your comfort zone a little bit. Just because you're there as a student athlete doesn't mean, not to reach out and see what frat life is about, or, don't stay cloistered in one group. Reach out, find new people. We're from Rhode Island, so it's good to, now he tells me he's from Massachusetts now, but that's neither here nor there. But reach out, ask questions, and if he asks me a question and I don't know the answer, I always ask coach. I don't know, ask coach, and he'll always go, all right, and he usually will say, I'll go ask Sue, or I think there's someone named Mary Beth, I believe that's her name. He'll go, I'll go ask Mama Lamb, he calls her actually. So
That's funny.
He knows who to ask the questions to. Your student has to be comfortable asking and advocating for themselves.
Those are great points, Christine. I'm sorry, Sue. I'll let you jump in. Let me hop back off. Go ahead.
So both Tara and Christine are right on with their advice. The Academic Achievement Center has a lot of areas that students can reach out to for support. What we do in our department is I work closely with student athletes who might need academic support, but I won't know it unless I find out either from a coach or the student athlete. So Christine is 100% right, and as is Tara, about being a self-advocate. So please right now talk to your student athlete about how to do that, because they may not know how to do that. And I am the person in the department that is the person to reach out to for anything. And I'm not going to have a conversation with a parent about what's going on with the student that I know of. But if you are concerned about your son or daughter, please email me, because I will then look into it. I will reach out to your student athlete. I will talk to the coach. I will find ways to get to that student athlete and get them some help. I usually have a grad assistant. I won't have a grad assistant this year, but I will definitely be working on something to help student athletes out. I've created a program right now that's brand new to get student athlete who is struggling with an academic coach from the Achievement Center, getting some support for wellness, for relaxation techniques, anxiety reduction techniques. So it's going to be a brand new program, and I'm really excited about it. So if your son or daughter could benefit from that, tell them to come see me. If nothing else, I always have candy in the office. It's going to have to be a different type of meeting now because of the pandemic, but I will make sure that all my candy is sterilized. I don't know, that probably isn't going to work, but if anything, please let them know that I am here. That's part of my job, and I love working with student athletes.
Thank you, Sue. The other note that I wanted to also just mention, this past fall, my son was a first year. And so a lot of times I would also just let him know, ask the captains of the team, ask some of the upperclassmen. And so I think it took him a little while before he did start to do that. But I definitely know probably mid to end of the season, they probably were wondering why he kept asking so many questions. But, now it's kind of, he's transitioning now to, his second year here. And I hope that he now is able to kind of serve, the first years kind of coming in with their questions and concerns, and, just everything is just very new to them. And so, that's just something that as a parent that I do like to kind of remind, my student athlete. On the flip side of it, being a full-time staff member here in the department, I think it's okay to say that we kind of have our own little kind of family here over in the Tinsley Center. I think we're about 20 or 22 full-time staff members. We're divvied up between the Tinsley Center, also the Kelly Gymnasium as well. And so, and Andrew can certainly attest to this, but, we're working in our office, and for me, especially for Sue, there's a handful of us where we might have a student athlete come in and sit and just say, do you mind if I sit here for 10 minutes? My next class doesn't start. Or do you have a stapler? Do you have any snacks? I have an area in my office where, see, Andrew, he's laughing because he knows. I have an area in my office where they just kind of lift up a cabinet and there's snacks to help them in between classes. So I also like to think that we just kind of have our own little family here, and, that's not just for student athletes, that's for any of our students, of course. But it just is something that is just another kind of comforting layer, I think, that we just add.
Thank you. Those are really excellent points. I didn't even know that you had some snacks, so maybe I'll come visit you if I have a class in the Tinsley Center this fall. So this question's going to be for Sue. How is my student going to be supported as a student athlete on campus this fall semester, regarding that there's no in-person fall sports, but there's practices. So what's kind of the dynamic that's going to go on with that?
That's a great question. So we're currently working with our coaches. I know I oversee, how many coaches, Tara? 5 or 6? I can't even remember. And I'm working with them one-on-one to talk about what the fall needs to look like. We have student athlete leaders who are called Bear Up student athletes, and I'm asking coaches to have those student athletes, and Andrew knows, Andrew's a Bear Up grad, reach out to first-year student athletes to let them know that they're excited about them coming, to let them know they're there for them if they need any help. So I'm trying to find out from my coaches, how are you reaching out to your first-year student athletes? So all of our coaches are really invested in their student athletes, particularly their incoming freshmen. And so we're going to make sure that they're connected, they're talking to them prior to coming into school. And I have what's called a freshman workshops. And those are normally one night a week with student athletes in a classroom, talking about topics, bringing in speakers. Obviously, we can't do that this year, but my plan is to work with individual team freshman groups on Zoom, more than likely, talking about various topics about how to be a successful student athlete, study skills, time management, like Christine talked about, leadership opportunities, etc. And so we're going to do that, and I'm going to get connected with each group. And if I can see them safely, if it's a small enough group in a room where we're all social distancing just for check-ins or one-on-ones, that's what I'll do. We're very invested in our first-year student athletes, and the team is very invested. So as Tara said, we're very much a family. So your student athletes are becoming part of a family. We take care of our family.
Thank you. Andrew, I'm going to ask you a question. What is the best piece of advice that you can give to new families of student athletes, that are some expectations that they should be maybe aware that their student might be going into? So are there any expectations that you and your family members put into place as you being a student athlete, but also juggling academics?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that comes to mind when you say that is be prepared as a parent, as well as be prepared for your students, that they're going to come into college possibly being like a top dog in their school when it comes to athletics, or top in their league. They're going to come into college and they're going to be facing off against 22-year-olds. And for me doing track, I knew it was coming, but for me doing track, that was a big shock, to say the least, when these grown men were, dusting me in track. So I think being prepared mentally for that, and knowing that, you're going to train, you're going to get better at it with different college workouts and plans with that. That's something that you should definitely be prepared for. I think that the other big thing that I can think about being prepared for is time management, really. Each, kind of like Sue had said, there's the freshman workshops and there's different opportunities for student athletes, especially in their first year, to be able to gain some ground on becoming a better student in the college life as well as athlete. But there's definitely a lot of opportunities for student athletes to kind of slip on their grades, and it's really up to the student to be able to utilize the resources that the athletics department and Bridgewater State as a whole has to offer, to be able to maintain that the grade point average that they want, and the grade point average it takes to be on a collegiate athletic team.
Well, you just transitioned me into my next question.
I'm glad.
What is the GPA requirement to be a student athlete on campus? So this can be, Sue, you can start it off if you'd like, and then parents, you can come in with some expectations that you had with your student, and then Andrew, you can kind of talk if you'd like to.
Okay, so again, a great question. The mandatory GPA for student athletes is 2.0. That's a university mandate. You have to be full-time with 12 credits. Unless you have a learning disability that would warrant you to carry less than 12 credits. 9 would be the maximum, the minimum for that. But I would have to appeal to the NCAA for a reduced course load. So if anybody has a student athlete who's coming in, who wants to participate, who would benefit from a reduced course load, I am happy to start that process. I would have to work with the Disability Resources Office and submit a lot of paperwork, because that's what the NCAA does, to the NCAA, and get that cleared before you could compete. Now, in the fall, we're not competing, but I really would recommend a reduced course load for anyone who needs it. So other than that, you have to be full-time, which is 12 credits to participate at all. And then next year, depending on how this pandemic works, you would have to have 24 credits to play next year. Right now, from last year, our conference waived the 24 credit rule. So you never know what's going to happen for next year. But typically it's 2, 12, 24. 2.0, 12 credits, 24 credits to participate the next year. That's it.
As a parent, just to kind of step in on that piece, that was something that I kind of just left up to my student athlete to kind of be aware of. Again, on the backside, as a full-time staff member, I'm aware of what it is, but I just really put a lot of that responsibility, for my son to kind of take care of that. So, and again, Andrew mentioned it, Sue's mentioned it, and Christine's mentioned it. Time management is really just a big part of all of that. a phone call from your friend wanting to go do this or that. Maybe you're not able to because you have to study, you have to finish up your paper, whatever it may be. I know that my son struggled with that first semester a little bit. Just kind of finding a groove that worked for him. But I am thankful that he was able to kind of find that groove. But each student is very different. So
I explained to my son freshman year, the ultimate goal at BSU is that degree. That's the ultimate goal. Football is the icing on the cake. This is what, it's a privilege to be able to play at the collegiate level. It's a privilege. And never to let that privilege take you away from why you're actually in college. And I think, as Tara said, freshman year was a little tough. I was, one of those parents who stayed on top of him in high school. In high school, if you didn't hand in a paper, the teacher would call your parent, send a letter home. It's different in college. You have to realize what's expected of you. He learned. He learned the hard way a little bit, but he lifted himself up by his bootstraps. And after a wonderful conversation with his mother, he realized, why we chose, because we chose BSU as a family. And I had to explain to him, I'm a tough love kind of mom. I told him, as easily as we chose BSU, we can unchoose BSU if you're not going to put the work in. So I think it worked. I think he's doing well. Kind of bummed about this upcoming fall season, which is to be expected. He took it better than I did. But I think, he will be moving back on campus in the fall, his decision. And I think he'll do well. We have to keep some kind of normalcy. But he also knows that just because there's no football does not mean that, I actually said, you now have more time to work on your classes. So we'll see how that works out.
I think the biggest,
Nope, go ahead, Andrew.
All right. I think the biggest thing with your student athletes when it comes to academics is actually accountability. You're paying to come here. No D3s can give scholarships, so it's like you're paying to come here for academics, not for athletics. And I think it's important that your student and yourselves reach or kind of talk about it beforehand. That kind of like Christine was saying, sports are great, and being proficient in your athletic field is great, but you want to be proficient in both academics and athletics, because really, the end goal is to be able to get a job after 4 or 5 years, and you can't do that if you're failing out of classes because you want to sleep in because you decided to wait a long time the next morning, or the night before you wanted to go to bed late because you were doing extra stuff or whatever. But really, you want to make sure that they're accountable for the grades and the GPA, and being able to while I was a student athlete, I had to drop a course because it was too hard. So to make sure that I stayed above that 12 credits, I knew that I needed to pick up an extra course. So making sure that the student is accountable for their actions and they know how to fix what they're doing, that's the biggest thing I can say.
And then just one small thing, just to actually piggyback off Andrew, what Andrew just mentioned was, if you are a parent of an athlete, you've probably heard this, you've probably said this in your own household. I know I have, and I know we say this here, in the hallways of BSU. When you're a student athlete, you're a student before you're an athlete. That's the most important thing. So just something as simple as that is something that I have said many, many times at home.
Thank you. Sue, how does registration work for new incoming students that are student athletes? Is there a specific process? Is it the same process that new students would go through as well? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, another great question. For freshmen student athletes, it's the same as anybody registering as a freshman. Once you get here, you get early registration the semester prior to your season. So winter sports will get it 2 seasons, and that's basketball, track, swimming, and diving, wrestling. So they get both semesters early registration, but the fall student athletes register early in the spring for the fall, and the spring student athletes get early registration in the fall for the spring. But unfortunately, freshmen right now register with everybody, and that's not necessarily unfortunate. We're very happy to get early registration, but sometimes our freshmen get very stressed out because there's nothing available when they're picking classes and except late classes. So they get stressed out, and that's why I always want them to either come see me or talk to their coach about it, because there are ways to add, drop, etc. when school starts. But I want to try and reduce their anxiety as much as possible. So if you have a son or daughter that's in that situation, please tell them to email me. I'll do the best I can to give them the best advice and hopefully kind of reduce their fears a little bit. Did I answer
Yes,
your question?
perfect. Thank you so much. I just know we've had a few questions about registration for student athletes, so that answered it right on the money. So thank you. So I guess this can go to all our campus partners are on the call today. Are there specific routines my student will need to follow regarding their specific sport team? So is there something that they should follow? Is there a workout routine? Is there a food diet routine that they should follow? Can I let you all are more than welcome to
So I'll start first from the student athlete perspective. So every team is going to have their own workout schedule, whether it's practice times, weight room times, stuff like that. So it's up to your student athlete to be able to identify that and to be able to go to them and make sure that they're present and doing the workouts and stuff like that. When it comes to eating, it's also going to have to be on them because they're going to need to make sure that they kind of create a use time management to create a schedule on when to eat and when not to eat. So for instance, I never ate within an hour and a half of my track practice. And I made sure to not eat, greasy foods the day before or before competitions like that. So it's up to them to be able to kind of come up with that food plan and kind of what works with them, what works with their bodies, because everyone's different with what they can eat and what they can kind of produce out of it. And then with academics and stuff like that, it's like I said, it's kind of up to them. I know for track, we had groups of us kind of hang out together and study together, make sure, we're on top of each other for homework and stuff like that. So with the academics wise, they want to make sure that you're on top of it.
So every coach has information that they want their student athletes to know about what the schedule is going to look like. If they're an incoming freshman, they should have summer workouts from their coaches. And if, again, they haven't reached out to a coach, they need to do that because otherwise they won't be invited to try out. So try out, practice, whatever we're doing this year. So they really need to get that information from the coach. Our athletic trainers are highly involved with exercise and strength and conditioning. Our assistant director of sports medicine oversees the strength and conditioning program. We have some great coaches involved with that program. But the student athletes should get that information from their coaches. And it's important if they've not heard from a coach, so either reach out to a coach or reach out to me so that I can help you get connected with a coach. And also, student athletes sometimes tend to not eat, which drives me crazy as a parent. What they need to do is, if they can have healthy snacks, and sometimes that falls on you, moms and dads, healthy snacks in their room, at least, something with carbohydrates like bagels and peanut butter if they're not allergic, and, just apples and good stuff, yogurts, because again, sometimes they'll skip a meal and that's not good for student athletes. That's the mom side of me.
I'm going to use the word piggyback, like Tara says, off of what Sue said. I have a very picky eater, very, very picky eater. And I would find myself just, doing a BJ's run. I'd give my beginning of the month. All right, let me know what kind of snacks you want. Because I found myself paying for a dining plan, and he would swipe for an apple. And I'm like, listen, I can buy you a bag of apples and you can use that swipe for something else. But also, just to let you know, I can only speak as far as the football coach, but I have to say, when we found out that there wasn't going to be a fall season, Jaron was on a Zoom call with Coach Veria and the other coaches and 82 student athletes that played football. And just listening to Coach Veria explain to the athletes the whys, the how comes, how it was their safety and things like that, it made me understand once again why we chose BSU. This coach fully understood how disappointed his athletes were, and you could hear it in his voice how disappointed he was. But in the same breath, he also said, don't stop with your conditioning. Keep going. He's like, we may not have it this season, but we're going to get them next season. So he sandwiched it. He was like, I know you guys are upset. I'm upset too, but continue doing what you're doing. Eat well, keep practicing, keep conditioning. And he also, of course, none of them wanted to speak on the Zoom because, big, football athletes. But he gave them the opportunity later on. If you need to speak to someone, it doesn't have to be in a forum with all of us, to reach out to him. So I always say it goes beyond the football field. It goes beyond those goal posts at each end. This coach is there for you, and the whole athletics crew is there for you if you need someone to talk to. If you need, a hug, if you need snacks, like Sue said, they're there for you. You just have to make sure that your student athlete acknowledges and knows that they can go to them, for pretty much, anything. But I have to say, if you chose BSU for athletics and academics, you made a great choice. You really, really did. I mean, I wish I could stop my college life all over again, but you did. You made a great choice. You did, honestly.
Just to add a small piece of information, as a parent, same as Christine just mentioned, I would do my Costco run, and I would just kind of reach out to my, my student, what do you need? Most of the time it was waters, Gatorades, that kind of stuff. But I did find that my son really did a great job in kind of creating a routine that worked for him. What I did find was everything kind of happened in stages. Last fall is obviously different from this fall, but he kind of came onto campus, second, third week into August. He kind of got into a little bit of a groove with the soccer team. And then students started moving on campus, and then classes started. So there was a little bit of kind of just waves of things kind of happening. For me, as a parent, I noticed with him, he did really well when school was happening and he was in the middle of the season. I found that once the season was over, he was kind of out of a routine and almost kind of had to readjust once again. Like now he has all of this free time. And he did a pretty good job with that. But it's just those periods throughout the semester as a student athlete that, it's this, or a game day might be a different routine than a regular practice day, a Sunday as opposed to a Thursday, that kind of thing. So it's just a constant moving routine that they just have to kind of figure out and just kind of see what works best, best for them.
Thank you. Sue, I saw a question in the chat. Is there any way that you can post about the Bear Up program at the end of this chat, like put the information on the chat feature, or like kind of like send out an email regarding it? I just think some parents are interested in about it.
Bear Up or freshman workshops?
Probably both of them. That'd be fantastic.
Okay, because Bear Up is a leadership academy for sophomores and above, although once in a while a coach will nominate a freshman. We've had a few freshmen. They're just fantastic. Where would you like me to post it? Because I'm technologically challenged.
So there was another follow-up question. Is there a page for families of student athletes to follow? And if there is a page, is there any way you can put the information there?
Tara, can you help me with that?
I was just going to say, I couldn't hit mute quick enough, Sue. I'm sorry. Unmute, rather. What I could suggest, if this is helpful, Megan, is Sue can share that piece of information with me. And I'm also one of the BSU Families Facebook moderators. And we could go ahead and share it over there with some families. I think that kind of might hit what we're looking to do. Does that work, Sue?
Yeah, that does. I mean, I've had a first year Bear Facebook page, but yeah. Yep, so I'm terrible with social media, so yeah, that works fine.
Okay. Just to add, she might not be great with technology, as she mentioned, but a lot of times, and she's really going to kill me for saying this, when you go onto BSU Bears and you see a lot of our sports photography, Sue Crosby is amazing is not even the right word. Yep, see, Christine, her photographs are so amazing, amazing, amazing. So although technology might not necessarily be her thing, if you could see her photography, it's amazing. So I will connect with Sue on the back side of things, just to gather some of that information, and I'd be happy to bring it over to the BSU family side of things if that works.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I had another quick question, Sue. So this is from a family member. Should my student reach out to a coach now for the winter or spring swim program, or later on after school begins? So when would be the best time? Should they reach out to their coach?
Yeah, they absolutely can reach out to the coach now. So can I share his email address? Is that okay, Megan?
Yes. Yep.
So his name is Michael Caruso. It's mcaruso@bridgew.edu. And I'll repeat that, mcaruso@bridgew.edu. And absolutely reach out to the coaches now, because they'd be very excited to hear from you and connect with you and share everything. We just miss our student athletes. They're our family. We miss them. We want to know they're okay. If they're new and incoming, we want to answer all their questions and get to know them. So I cannot wait to see them again. As much as it's going to be social distancing, I can't wait. We all feel that way. So. Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up for some more questions in the chat, or again, feel free if you're a family member to turn your camera on and ask a question. So we'll take some couple minutes. So while we're waiting for some questions to come in, this is for our 4 campus partners. So I think we've kind of touched upon it a little bit, but if you could give one piece of advice, so like one word on how to best support your student athlete coming to college in the fall, what would be the one word that you would give? Or a sentence, if that works as well too.
One word, I don't think I can never just give one word. For the toughest part for me was the communication with my student athlete. I was so used to seeing my student athlete every day that with him being away, it was tough, like to go like a day or two without hearing from him, and I found myself being that mom, hey, remember me, it's your mom. But then I had to realize that this is all a part of growing up. This is all a part of, he still knows I'm there. Trust me, when he needed $20 for a Domino's pizza, I got the text message. But also just letting him know, it doesn't have to be a full-fledged text message. We have a thing in my family where we love GIFs. I think that's what they're called, GIFs, GIFs, I don't know what they're called. Send me one, send me one here and there. Send me a text message. Send me an emoji, just so, I don't have to call campus security and have them go up in your room to make sure you're okay. But just be prepared that the communication may not be what you're used to, and give them that freedom to reach out to you. Trust me, when they need you, they'll reach out to you. It's kind of like no news is good news. But just remember that this is all the process. Trust the process. Isn't that something BSU says? Trust the process. I think I've seen little bracelets that Jaren wears that says trust the process. So trust them. They have your child's best interest in mind. They do. Trust the process.
I think the best advice my dad gave to me as a student athlete, which I didn't really take until my sophomore year, was to get involved outside of athletics. I was very involved with track and what I did and everything like that, which is great. But it took me about a year, maybe a year and a half, to kind of branch out, get involved in other departments. I got a job as an orientation leader, as a resident assistant. I have a couple jobs on campus outside of that for student employment, as well as being a part of a fraternity now. So I think that, making sure that your student athlete is having fun in their sport, but also not being afraid to kind of branch out and try new things, because that's what college is about. It's making connections and trying new things. So I think that would be some good advice for them.
I think that I think to answer the question best, how can I best support my student athlete at the collegiate level? What I think is standing back and allowing them to fall a little bit, not so bad, but just allowing them to fall a little bit, allowing them to grow. I personally noticed, and I shared this quite a bit with Sue here at work as well, I was so amazed at the growth that I noticed within my own son from this past year. And I was so proud to see that, honestly. Christine mentioned this earlier. I am the type of parent I was at the high school level where, we had the student portal where we could see what's missing, what they may have earned on a test grade, that kind of thing. And I checked it maybe more often than most parents did, but I did do that. And again, just standing back, once they're in college, my son allowed me access to look, at his grades and things like that. I didn't want to do that, though. I just kind of wanted him to be responsible and accountable for those things on his own. And again, as Christine mentioned, again, when he needed something, we lived close enough where he would come home on the weekends and I wouldn't push for conversation, but we try to have a family meal and he would just openly kind of talk about things. So again, just to kind of circle back, for me, the best way to support him, I think, is for me to stand back and just kind of allow him to just evolve and just kind of grow a little bit. So I think that's what my answer would be.
I think for me, and my son chose not to be a student athlete when he came to Bridgewater. Whew. But it became a series of letting go. And as Tara and Christine and actually Andrew said, allowing him to make independent decisions. I'm a single mother, so I kind of raised him that way in a little bit. But I'm also a tough love mom like Christine and Tara are. But I mean, the kid changed his major 3 times. He decided to join a fraternity, which was actually an amazing thing to do and changed his life. He became an orientation. He did a lot of things that I was really proud that he did, but he did other things that I, in my head, questioned. And at one point he said to me, "Mom, this was his summer going into his sophomore year and he had been an orientation leader. I'm never going to move home again." Well, yeah, I was crying inside my head. I'm like, yes, he will. He never moved home again. And then he got married and the rest is history. But the freedom that I gave him to make these decisions was really hard because they weren't necessarily my decisions, but I knew I needed to let go. And when you have those situations, please tell your student athlete, see Sue, call Sue, email Sue. Because it will be easier for me to support those, but also easier for me to say, what are you thinking? And they do tend to respond to that. It's the tough love side that I can take on for all of you, but it's hard. It's really hard, but you got to let it happen. Oh, and buy them day planners. That's all I have to say.
Yes, I can definitely attest. I'm not a student athlete on campus, but my mom and dad gave me some tough love, and now I'm going to be a rising senior. So it definitely does work. So you got to just stand back a little bit. So I'm going to open it up one more time for questions. If we have any last minute questions, again, please feel free to turn your mics on or ask your question in the chat feature. And please feel free to be comfortable.
While we're just waiting for some questions to come in, I think I just saw one come in. I just wanted to make one quick mention because this group is, student athletes and kind of around athletics. Our BSU Bears website is a wealth of information. You can find all of our teams. You can find intramural, recreation, rosters, after games. I learned as a parent to wait for those highlight stories to be printed. So BSU Bears is really a great website, and it's just really a wealth of knowledge just to kind of get any information, answer any questions. So just, just to familiarize yourself just a little bit with that.
I would like to say as a student athlete that I don't want to say it's easy, but there are definitely opportunities for your student athletes to be able to get employment on campus, even with their schedules. I still do, but I worked for the athletic department, working with home events in my off seasons and when I was injured. So it's definitely feasible for your student athlete to be able to have fun on campus, be able to make money, and also still do their have their athletic experience.
My son also works on campus. I believe he folds laundry in the one of my, I think that's what it is. Every time I see him, he's folding uniforms or towels. But it also gives him the opportunity where he can make some extra money and study at the same time, while he throws a load in the dryer, pull out a book or some flashcards. But it's important that he's able to earn his own little bit of spending, for the Walmart runs when, mom and dad can't get up there for that Domino's pizza, or just, to hang out with friends. And so he always has a little bit of something in his pocket. It makes them feel responsible. And you don't want to be that kid who your friends are going out and now sorry, I can't go, but I have to say that the football team is a family. I was nervous when Jaron, I think I was the parent at like the football meeting who was like, so do you guys haze? What's and there was one football player, Chris Jamale, I think his name was, and he's he's a boisterous guy. He's animated, he's full of life. But he pulled me aside and he was like, listen, I got your son's back. Coach showed me, the way he plays, and I'll consider him my little brother. And they're a family. They, when one gets hurt, they're there to pick each other up, so it's definitely a family, and I appreciate it.
Thank you for all that information. I really appreciate it. That sounds so wonderful. And it's awesome that your student, Christina, is having such a great time with the football team. So it's such a great experience. But because we're getting close to time, I want to be cognizant of our time for our campus partners. So I'm going to ask if Sue and Tara, if you could provide any emails in the chat feature or verbally speak them again, just so our family members want to reach out and ask any questions, they're more than welcome to. So I'm going to give time for you both to do that.
Yeah, I can absolutely do that piece, Megan.
I also want to remind our family members, as Sue and Tara are adding their emails, we do have a couple Q&A sessions as well this week. We have one tomorrow and we have two on Wednesday, and then we have one on Thursday. So please, please, please feel free to drop by again. We would love for anyone to come in.
Also, join the BSU Families page on Facebook. It's a plethora of information If we can't find the answer, if we don't have the answers, we find the answers. It's a great way for parents, and it's just for parents, no students on this page. It's a great way for parents to get to know the BSU atmosphere from the eyes of other parents. It quells fears. We do fun things. I know one of our moderators will post little puzzles, and we like to post pictures of our students, not just student athletes, just students in general. Please join our page. I've been a moderator for a year now. I absolutely love it. Please join. I think we're almost, I almost want to say we're up to 1,500. We might be maybe 20 or 30 shy. Get us to 1,500. Come on, get us there, get us there, get us there. But definitely join the page. You'll enjoy it. And we look forward to speaking with you.
Well, without further ado, if anyone doesn't have any other questions, Michelle and I will stay on for a couple extra minutes, but I want to be cognizant of time. So thank you so much, Christine, Tara, Sue, and Andrew for joining our call today. It was really informational. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing everyone on campus if you're coming back on fall. Please stay safe and everyone have a great start of their week.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Where's the end button?
Hi, Vivian. Is there anything that Michelle and I can help you with?